Linzer. I'm the Director of Access and Community Programs here at the Whitney Museum of American Art. I've been here about 6.5 years, and a lot of my work deals with working to ensure that the museum is a really accessible and welcoming environment for a very diverse public. In the years leading up to the opening of the new building, we organized a series of programs and outreach activities to engage members of our local community in a dialogue about what it means for the Whitney to become a part of this neighborhood. So this area actually historically has been very significant for the LGBTQ community in New York City and really in the world. We're just blocks away from the Stonewall Inn, where the sort of formal gay rights movement started, and that actually just gained its landmark status. We're in the center of where the Gay Pride festivities take place. The LGBT Community Center is just down the block. So it's something we were very conscious of as we were becoming a part of the neighborhood. And we actually convened a dialogue at the LGBT Center with leaders from the community asking, well, what can we do to make the museum feel like a safe and a welcoming space? And one of the things we heard was that all gender restrooms are really a significant thing. There's nothing like going into a public space and having a crisis over where you're going to use the restroom or whether you're going to walk in and people are going to react to you being in that space negatively. It was something that we heard from members of our community that, you know, all gender restrooms essentially embrace the multiplicity of genders that exist, right? And that we're not just a binary society of male and female, but there's a lot of people who identify all along a spectrum. It's actually not the first time that we've done all gender restrooms at the Whitney. The first time we experimented this was actually during the 2014 Whitney Biennial, where a number of the artists whose work was on view or who were collaborating on programming and events were trans and wanted to have all gender restroom spaces, wanted to have access to gender neutral facilities. And so we actually, during the last biennial, we had sort of temporarily transitioned some of our pre-existing men and women restrooms to all gender spaces. And we used that as kind of a teachable moment for our audience. We put up signs explaining what is an all gender restroom and why do we have them, and really just communicating that this is a space for people of all gender expressions and identities, all of whom are welcome at the Whitney. Any museum that has single user bathrooms that aren't signed as for a particular gender, that could be considered an all gender restroom. So I think we may be making it a more visible through our application of signage to those spaces and really sort of communicating and using the language to express that these are all gender spaces, but I don't think we're the first. Bathrooms have always been spaces where we've grappled with essentially civil rights questions, right? Places that didn't used to have women's restrooms, right? The sort of inclusion of women's restrooms in those spaces and acknowledging that women are part of these worlds. For example, on construction sites before the 1970s, they didn't tend to have any facilities for women, essentially communicating that women are not part of these trades. They don't have a place in the space. Integrated bathrooms. When we look back historically at times when race was segregated in the United States, people with disabilities, right? The introduction of accessible restrooms that people who are wheelchair users or people who have mobility impairments can use that are designed to meet their needs, right? So over time, we've really expanded our notions of what a restroom is and what it does for people, and really having those available telegraphs that you are welcome in this space, right? And so our inclusion of all gender restrooms at the Whitney is just part of a very long history of making our sort of very human facilities more accessible to the kinds of folks who come through our doors.